Welcome to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Saber. Saber, for everyone out there listening, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Robbie, for inviting me to this podcast. My name is Saber, and I'm an associate professor at the University of Surrey, and I'm the director of the Connected Autonomous Vehicles Lab, CAV Lab, and at Surrey, where we're running at many projects related to the development of the AI and development of the autonomous vehicle using artificial intelligence for the decision making, for the end-to-end control systems. In fact, what we are doing in CAV Lab, we are developing algorithms that make autonomous driving more intelligent, and we're trying to make the autonomous cars drive like an actual human, like the actual responsible human that can drive a car.
How do you manage that though with an AI, for instance? Because this is where I was telling you off air. I'm a little bit I'm very curious about, but I'm also scared too, because what do you fear more with that? Like a car that can drive itself, for instance. We're having Teslas that are doing that now.
Mhm.
I look into the area. Does this promote more laziness? Does this make people want to be lazy and just be on their phones while the car is driving? Is there, is it so smart that it can actually, make a split decision faster than a human can? So you'll avoid a lot of incidences with it. I mean, there's a lot of areas of concern, but also so many areas where I could see this implemented. Public transport would be 1,000 times easier if you had an AI that was doing it.
Let's look at the two different things: autonomous vehicles technology itself and the implementation of the AI on autonomous vehicles. So let's talk why the government, the researchers are so excited about this technology, and they want to make this technology come to our day-to-day life. The reason is that autonomous driving can contribute to our day-to-day life in different ways. One way is that it helps us to make our transportation system more efficient and safer by reducing the number of collision or accidents. This is a machine, can drive itself. A lot of accidents that we have on the road is because of the human errors. Human can get drunk, a human can get tired, can get sleepy, or can be distracted easily because of different things. And these are all a source of the accidents that we have on the road. More than 90% of the accidents on the road is because of the human errors. The machine cannot get tired, cannot get drunk, cannot get sleepy. It can drive safely, and it can drive based on what it has been programmed for. Another reason is that it opens up the joy of driving to all humans. For example, we have many elderly people that cannot drive the car safely, or we have disabled people that cannot have the joy of riding their own car. So when we have this transportation system, it opens up the opportunity to take the advantage of this technology for everyone. And another one, of course, is the fuel consumption and emission and the need of having green environment. So these technologies help us to drive a more efficient and safer, more fuels, and take the most capacity of the transportation infrastructure that we have at the moment. So these are different advantages that this technology can bring to us. But at the same time, okay, there are some concerns. People say that, okay, how we can trust the cars, how we can make sure that they are safe. These are different questions that we need to answer. The researchers and the government need to answer to that one. I would say that technology is there, is ready to be used. Okay, in the past we have some legality issues and insurance issues. I believe that these issues have been sorted out, and we will see soon autonomous cars on the road. But what I need to tell you, when we are talking about the autonomous car, we have a different level of autonomy. We have the based on the source of automotive engineering, 5 level of the autonomy from level 0 to level 5. Level 0 is the case that the car doesn't have any intelligence or any way to do some function by itself. Level 5 is the latest version of the autonomy that there is no human input to driving and the car drives itself completely. To reach to that level of the autonomy, we are not ready for that. It's going to take quite a long time to reach to the full autonomy, but we can to reach to high level of the autonomy or level 4 autonomy that car can drive itself, but a minimum human monitoring and interaction is needed to drive the car. So I would say that highly automated vehicles come soon to our roads, but fully autonomous vehicles that there is no human interaction with the car and the car fully drive itself is going to be quite a long time to reach to that stage.
Which one do you like better though? Do you like that humans can have a small interaction in it, or do you more like the fully autonomous ones where we can have this? Because we say it's far off, but I don't think it's that far off, to be 100% honest with you. I mean, we're doing things in great strides every single day.
Okay, so again, fully autonomous cars that we don't have any human interaction. We may have it for the dedicated driving area, for example, for the airport vehicles, or for buses, for the shuttles, or we may have those fully autonomous cars. But if you want to drive it on the highway or on the cities, a fully autonomous car, I don't think we have it because of many reasons. But one reason is they are very expensive technology and people cannot easily avoid it. And the second is that the idea of the autonomous driving, fully autonomous driving, is for the shared mobility mostly. So to get to that area, I would say that to have the whole transportation system autonomous, we are far from it. Maybe you see 1 or 2 cars fully autonomous on the road, but to have the whole transportation autonomous is going to take time. I don't think it's going to happen sooner than 2050 or 2060 to have the whole transportation system of autonomous.
Now, in the beginning, when you were talking about the positives, I kind of want to walk through a little bit of each of those. The first one you talked about made it sound like it was going to be something where we wouldn't have human really drive at all. Like, we got to take account for the people like myself probably would be in that group that don't want a car. I drive a 2000 car. So that car the radio doesn't even work. So there's no auto driving. There's no technology really in it. It's got old speakers. Everything's kind of back to the original template of it. Now, the human error issue with accidents, for instance. Now, we have to take in account that the people who aren't going to buy these or these partially autonomous cars, which means that maybe you're not going to get drunk, or maybe someone can get drunk and let their car drive for them. That's not going to have an issue. But then you have an issue with the fact that the person in front of them, like, can these cars detect if there's a drunk driver ahead? Can it make those split decisions or those reactions where a human, like for me, I could tell if someone's in front of me is drunk, I'm going to slow down. Would the car be able to detect that from, I don't know, if there's a drunk driver, if there's someone texting, or if there's some other type of thing in there?
Okay, so look, these are the cases that we're not sure the car can. These are open work that we are working on. For example, for the CAV lab, we are working on the anomaly cases, for the cases that they are rare, but the car needs to understand them. Okay, this is the area that people are working. I don't say that the car at the moment can handle that one, but these are the areas that the researchers are working on it, and they're trying to find a solution to help the car to understand this dangerous situation or special cases. So at the moment, no, the autonomous cars cannot recognize those, but I believe that the solution will become soon for that. That's why this is one of the areas that we are using AI to help the car to identify some abnormal driving behaviors or some abnormal situation on the road.
Do you think with a better understanding of like a better understanding of human consciousness, for instance, or like human decision making, for instance, if you understand kind of those models that are kind of set in studies and in place, you can kind of give more info to the car to be able to recognize these spontaneous reactions that people tend to do? I mean, you can't really, I wouldn't say predict it 100%, but you can make it like close, very close to a point where you can actually take account for these slight reactions where a machine would know, hey, I'm not going to roll up this close to this car because this car has been swerving left and right. And these are patterns in a sense of drunk driving.
Mhm. Yeah. So did you ask me the question, or
No,
I
I
didn't get
just
your
wanted to,
point?
I was understanding if you guys were researching more on consciousness on
Yeah,
that aspect. Okay.
this is a one of the area that we are working. There are a lot of things that we need to work on it. Again, look, the cars that we have at the moment, they are very conservative. They don't drive like a human, and they just care about all their own passengers. But we are using AI mostly for the perception systems to try to get or extract information as much as possible from the what the car sees. So it's not easy a task. It's a very difficult task, but the researchers are working on it, and I'm sure they will can find a solution for it.
Do you see the public's opinion on autonomous cars or autonomous vehicles in general changing? It seemed like in the beginning, what I didn't like about the news was that they were always reporting a Tesla crash, which I think instilled a very bad vision into people's heads. Now, I'm not going to be the person that's going to line up to get a car that might be fully autonomous or partially autonomous, for instance, but I'm definitely interested in seeing all the implications or all the benefits that you can really pull out of it, such as Uber. Uber would be amazing if you could just have that. You would have one person be able to book appointments or do something like that, or you would have probably way less traffic issues when it comes to just human error. But I just wonder if the public's opinion is starting to change on it because, I mean, where would these machines or these cars that can kind of drive themselves in a sense be more, I guess, implemented? Like, where would the starting goal of making these vehicles implemented besides rich billionaires? When is the public going to be able to see it?
Okay, so that's a good question. There are some accidents with the autonomous cars, uh, such as what you said. Uber had an accident a few years ago in Arizona that killed a lady that was carrying out a bicycle. So the lady was carrying out the bicycle. The system was confused: is a bicycle, is a human, and made a crash. Or the Tesla car, it misunderstood the color of the sky with the truck in front of it, and it's thought that is a free road, and instead of the braking, it did acceleration and caused the death of the driver. So these are the cases that the system make mistakes, and there are potential for the error. But when we are talking about the safety, we need to look at the data. We need to look at the statistics. We need to see for how many miles, how many accidents human drivers have, and how many accidents the autonomous car has. I know Waymo has driven their cars for the billions miles, and in this billion miles, they had a few accidents. If we compare it to the human driving, these accidents, the number of accidents is much less than the uh, human drivers. Okay, so feeling is one thing, the reality is another thing. To understand and trust this technology, you need to look at the statistics. You need to look how many uh, accident happens for these cars. So this is the data that we need to look at it. Waymo, Tesla, Uber, they release their experiments data, and if people look at those, they can make a better judgment. But anyway, is a new technology, and people always have hesitations against the new technology. Let's assume when the airplane came, how many people could trust airplane? Nobody, or few people could trust the airplane. But now everybody uses airplane. If you look at a train, for example, when it came, how many people can trust it? But it's the same for the autonomous cars. The people should see it, and slowly they will trust the technology. When they see this is working safe, is trustable, is this is the time that people can trust on this technology.
Well, you're probably gonna have a lot of hesitations with older generations, but with the newer generations, like it's all about time. Not only is the research going to get better, but you're going to have people that are more comfortable with it. Like if you, I mean, for how many people now, like you don't even consider taking away driving abilities from humans unless they're above age, or there might be out of, or they might suffer from like some type of disorder where they have a seizure on the road or something. But for the normal public, nobody's considering taking away a person's right to drive unless there are those health implications onto it. And that's because we were born and people were driving, especially like my age. People were already driving when I was born. For most of the public now, it's everyone's kind of already driving, it's time. Sooner or later, you start implementing autonomous vehicles in a sense. Eventually, people aren't even going to worry about it's a robot driving it. They're just going to be like, oh, there was this accident that happened. It's going to start getting lumped in. I think you can easily point at something new and say this is the blame with the deaths and everything like that. But I go, yeah, but what's it going to be later down the road? Now, you said 50 something or 2050, 2060 for fully autonomous vehicles.
Mhm.
I give you more leeway. I say that's going to be quicker. I say 2030, 2035. I know. Well, hold on. What I'm saying is that with the talking about it, with the interest in it, with the sparking of it, you're going to have a lot more people that are going to be wanting to fund this. And then I can see where we do have a fully autonomous thing. Trains, you don't really need a person at the thing if you have all these systems and relays that can do that. It's what you only have a couple trains on a track at a time. Compared to a highway, it's going to be harder. But if you have just a train track or something like that, fully autonomous vehicles that always show up, always do these destination things. The only thing I think you would have to worry about would be making sure that you have to account for people that are going to be a little bit late. And even then, like, people still go anyway. Like, they don't wait for somebody. They don't wait for every last passenger. So it requires people to be more on time, where next thing you know, you start seeing society starting to coordinate more with the time schedules. Like, this train's going to be there at this moment and they're not going to wait for me. So that I better get there at that moment.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. So one of the again, just let me correct you. We will see the autonomous car soon, but what I'm telling you, we will see in 2050, 2060, the whole transportation system autonomous. What I'm saying is that we won't see any human-driven car anymore.
What?
So
No, hold on.
what was telling is in 2050, 2060, we will have the whole transportation autonomous,
No,
no human-driven car. Yes,
no. I want to
yeah,
drive my car physically. What
yeah,
about those people?
yeah. Uh, look, again, it's the change of habit. I'm sure there are many people that enjoy driving the cars, but again, the habit will change, and when you don't, when you use it to do those technology, I don't think it's gonna be a problem of having injury. Because look, another thing that I forgot to say, another benefit of having autonomous transportation system. Okay, if you be negative about the technology, you will say that it makes the people lazy. But if you make on the other side, the positive side, you will say that it's free up a lot of time for me to make out of my time that I'm wasting during the traffic, during for the driving. So if I relieve myself from the driving task, I can do a lot of other things. I can do check my emails. I can do my job. I can save time. Okay, so there are pros and cons, or positive or negative side to this technology. But again, if we want to have the green environment, if we want to have the safer transportation system, if we want to have the efficient transportation system, I believe this autonomous cars can make a huge contribution. And by 2050, 2060, or maybe a little later, I would say between 2050 to 2070, to be on the right, to be correct, we will have the whole transportation system autonomous. But to make you a little more surprised, when I say the transportation, the government, the UK government, for example, I was reading an article a few years ago. The target is to 2070 that the whole transportation system be autonomous. Trains, cars, ships, airplanes, everything be autonomous.
But
When I'm saying that,
is anybody taking into account for the people that use driving as a mental health clear? Like, there's a lot of instances
okay,
where I take my car and I drive.
I'm not sure about it. I didn't think about it. I didn't talk about it with others, but most probably they can provide a track or some areas for you to go and enjoy driving, but not for the transportation, but not for the day-to-day or daily transportation.
So I have to stay on like a side track if I want to go get some air through my hair or something. That's
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah. This is the future. Again, we need this technology for our society, not for the individual interest, for the whole community, to save time, to save environment, to save lives, this stuff.
But what about the dangers of all that strategic planning? Like, eventually it's just going to mold society to fit time schedules. You're going to see everything, like, you're going to see, I mean, amazing traffic for sure. There's not going to be a whole lot of like jams and anything like that. There's going to be a lot of coordinated and moves. And, it's like when you see that video of those cars and like, I think it's like India or something where they're all like they're driving, but they look like they're all about to hit each other, but they're not. They're flowing because everyone's so used to it. It would be like that with cars. You wouldn't have to worry about like someone walking out in front of you and stuff. But I just wonder, like, don't you think like with getting a driver's license, for instance, that test that you have to do, the driving, you have to do the fear, the anxiety, all that stuff that goes with it. Don't you think that's important formative stuff that like, where's that going to transfer over to? Because I consider that's a rite of passage as a kid to get their a license or something like that as well.
Yeah, yeah, correct. Uh, I was in the meeting. It was 2015 or 2016, I think. I had in the London, and it was a many OEMs there. One of the topic they were discussing is that, okay, what's going to happen to the driving license if the car is going to be autonomous? This driving license doesn't work anymore. Yeah, they said that's true. The driving license and the driving teaching will change. Is not about operating the car, it's about the taking care of the safety of the car. If something goes wrong, how the people need to react to that one, how they need to manage the car in the difficult situation. So it's kind of this sort of skills you need to have to drive to use an autonomous car.
Yeah, that's just I don't how does that transfer over though is the thing. It's like where does that go to next? Like, I mean, if you make fully autonomous vehicles where there's no human, I guess, hands at play when it comes to driving or any of these types of systems, there's just a lot of issues with rights that get involved.
Let me give you correct you. And look, it's not going to happen suddenly. We're not going to have fully autonomous cars tomorrow, next year, or
I know, yeah.
even 10 years. Okay. What is the latest stage of the autonomous driving that we have at the moment? Is a level 2. The Tesla car is a level 2 autonomy.
That's a
We
level
don't
two.
is a level 2.
Oh my god, that's
We
advanced.
we are near to level 3. We are not even close to level 5. The researchers and the OEMs are working to make a level 4 coming to the roads, maybe next 10 years or 15 years. But level 5 is the ideal, I would say again, 2050 or 2060 is going to happen. Yeah, it's going to take time and people get used to this technology step by step. Now everybody get using to level 2 autonomy, Tesla, for example. And if level 3 comes, people get used to level 3. But level 4 is the actual stage that we get close to the fully autonomous driving. And where we on the level 4, okay, people know how to use the fully autonomous cars.
Well,
So it's
what's the
not
difference?
again.
What's the difference between level 2 and 3? Like, are they adding one thing or are they adding multiple things?
Yep, the level 0 is when we have no autonomy or no
Mhm.
electronic stuff in it. The time that the car was invented. Level 1, we had the very basic autonomy or assistant technology for the driver. For example, we have the ABS or some sort of or cruise control, things like that. In the level 2, the car can control itself or drive itself in very limited conditions. For example, in adaptive cruise control or parallel parking, we can have it. Or it can do the lane change by itself, okay? But it cannot do the lane change and accelerate at the same time. In the level 3, the car can do both actions or the more complicated action. They can have let me say it in the layman word. It can drive itself in the limited environment, for example, for highway, okay, for highway, but the driver can have to have the hands on the wheel, okay. The driver cannot leave the hands on the wheel. In the level 4, the driver can leave hands on the wheel. The system needs minimum human monitoring need or interaction, but level 5 is the fully autonomous. So step by step, we are getting to these technologies. Even we don't have even highly automated vehicles. We have just partially automated vehicles. So level 2, adaptive cruise control, I would say that this is level 2. Or maybe lane change or lane tracking. These things are the level 2. Level 3, we have a more driving situation. For example, autonomous highway driving is going to be the level 3. And level 4 is the case that human interaction won't be that much necessary.
What about people like, for instance, that want to go hunting or like country folk that want to go out onto their own land and drive and go hunting, for instance? Like, how does the car, if we talk about like, let's jump forward to 2050 or 2060, for instance, if we have fully autonomous vehicles, how are they going to, if we're talking about like, if you have depression, you want to go take a drive, you'll have a set lane to go take a drive, or you'll have a set area where you can take a drive. What about for the people that want to go hunting that's not in that set area? Like how do they get their car off the road? Like how much like of control of your own vehicle do you eventually even have with a fully autonomous? Because then I start thinking like with lockdowns, for instance, that happened. Could the government just say you can't use your car and your car won't start because it's stuck in the driveway?
Okay, let me talk about this way. When we let's look at the 150 years ago when the car invented. Most of the people used to ride the horse, correct? And few people had the car, and the car was a luxury, and having a horse was a normal thing for the most of the people. But when time passed on, horse were getting a luxurious and cars getting more normal style. And look at this one. If somebody wants to drive to ride a horse, what they can do? They have to use their own land in the specific area, a specific land to ride the horse. Okay, and everybody using a car in the daily life. In the future, will be the same. Having and now having a horse is a luxury style. Okay, nobody, few people can afford having a horse because it's very expensive, correct, compared to the car, I would say. In the future it will be more or less the same. I can't see the future, but my expectation is that having a car that has a gas pedal or a steering will be a luxury stuff that you can have to enjoy it, but an autonomous car would be a normal driving.
But what stops the government from locking me down if I don't pay my bills?
I'm not sure about it. You need to ask the government about it. But again, look, this is the change in our life that slowly will happen, but it will happen.
How do they expect to power all these vehicles?
In terms of electricity, or in terms of, if you are talking about electrical, in the future, all cars will be electric. Not in future, in from next year or 2 years, in near future, all cars will be electric. And it doesn't matter is autonomous or is human driven. If you need to power up the car, a human driven car is going to be the same for the autonomous car. If you are talking about the power consumption because of the many sensors they have, I think by that time the battery technology will be enough mature to handle this one. I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
Now, how do you deal with people that might hack it? Like, for instance, we heard about like someone that hacked a Tesla car and crashed it into a wall. I'm just curious.
That's the serious problem.
Yeah.
If I'm going to have a concern, this is the area that I have concern on. Hacking and cybersecurity is a big deal for this technology. But I'm aware, and I'm very well aware, that the governments, UK government, and I'm sure the other governments, are investing a lot of money to make sure this technology will be secure and hack-proof. But of course, it's going to be a problem.
What are your thoughts about it though? Like, for instance, like what can they do? A better firewall? Like, I think iPhones, for instance, are more hackable or more, I guess, of a prize for hackers because their firewall system, they're starting more people use an iPhone. So it just seems like that's the one you want to develop technology for. But they have apps on your phone that will install themselves without you knowing and then use your data or steal your data. And then the app, after 2 days of they notice that your phone's not active, it'll delete itself. Like that's a smart app and it's only going to get worse. I look at like not like giant corporations just locking you down, but what about independent hackers or people from overseas that are constantly trying to get data from you?
Okay, that's a serious problem. And this is the area that I'm not expert in cybersecurity. I can't comment on what exactly is going on to make it this hack-proof this technology. But the system, I would say, is very sensitive to this problem. One example I can tell you, for example, if you train your perception system very well to classify the objects, for example, understands it's a car or it's a human or it's a bicycle, the system can recognize it very well with the near to 100% accuracy. Okay, but if a hacker change just a few pixels of the image, okay, just few pixels of the image, it's very easy for the system to classify a car as a, for example, a horse. So this is a problem that I have a concept about this technology, but there are again a lot of works going on to make this system hack proof and make it less robust against the cyber attacks.
Now, what's to stop all the cars from looking the same? Are we going to have different models like how we have cars now? Like, is there going to be like versions of my car or a truck, or there's going to like we have a cyber truck and then we have we have the Tesla. There's different Tesla models, but I mean, even though it's still new, that's probably why they don't have a lot of different variations. But I'm just wondering if it's because people like to feel unique. They like to feel like I'm different than the person beside me. And if you have everybody driving the same model car, it's just kind of going to suck. So I'm hoping they have better
all
versions.
all OEMs, all automotive manufacturers are working on their own brand. I don't expect it's going to be the same brands. Their functionality will be the same, but what makes them different, I would say that is a design of the car, interior design, exterior design, the infotainment facilities that the cars can provide. These things make different brands. It will be, I don't expect this everything going to be the same. And another thing is that the all cars or manufacturers have their own opinion about the autonomous driving. Okay, for example, Waymo from Google says that the autonomous car have to have a LiDAR, but Tesla believes that the car should drive by camera only. There is no need of the LiDAR. LiDAR and camera are two important sensors, perception sensor for the autonomous cars to drive themselves in different areas. But the problem with the LiDAR is very expensive, and is an energy consumer. It needs a lot of power. But camera is cheap and it doesn't have too much power to be run. So these are pros and cons, but there are different views. How to design the autonomy, how to drive the cars. Again, these are different ways that brands will change. I don't expect the same brand, the same thing for all manufacturers.
Now, have you gone off in your own kind of curiosities to be able to figure out what you can make the car do besides just driving as well too? There was a video of a billionaire who pulled up in his Tesla into his driveway. He got out and he had his watch and he double tapped his watch and his headlights from his car popped off like little drones and lit up the walkway for him to go up into his house, and then it returned back to the car. I'm curious if you've had any curiosities about this aspect of maybe cars being able to just do more than just be involved onto travel aspects of things too, but being able to assist in just common small things maybe that lead up into your life in a sense.
Why should I think about it?
Why not?
Why should?
I don't even work in autonomous vehicles and I'm over here thinking about what the future is going to hold for it.
Okay, look, everything is possible. But why we are developing this autonomous car? We are developing this technology for our day-to-day life, for the whole community. We are not designing this technology for the specific people to enjoy to have the joy of the luxury. Is not the case. Yes, if this is a billionaire, they can take the autonomous car, make a lot of fancy things with that. They can couple that autonomous car with the drones. I don't know. There are a lot of things they can make it. But they are very special people with a lot of money. So they can whatever, not with the autonomous car, with everything else that they can do. With any technology, they can do it. For autonomous car, what I'm thinking about it, how they can benefit our transportation system, how they can benefit the majority of the people for the day-to-day driving, how it can save lives, how it can save fuel, how it can save my time. So this is the things that I'm thinking about it, not thinking about the rare people that may think of the very specific things. there are people that they can think of a lot of things.
Even with fully, yeah, but even with billionaires thinking of crazy stuff like that, that leaks into the public. I mean, it's just curious stuff you can end up adding into a vehicle. Elon says, I'm going to add bulletproof windows. Do you need bulletproof windows if you're a general public? Probably not. But now every Tesla will have bulletproof windows, or every Cybertruck will have bulletproof windows. I'm just saying, whatever a billionaire first thinks of usually ends up leaking into the public because the public sees it, they like the idea, and they want that installed into their vehicle. But when it comes to fully autonomous vehicles, one area I don't see becoming fully autonomous, or even though it would be effective, it might become more autonomous than human, is airplanes. You're not going to have people that are going to get down with the whole aspect of someone hacking an airplane and then crashing it. Doesn't matter how good the safety or security wall is, they're going to want one pilot, or they're going to want a human person in that room and or in that cockpit at all times, just in that fear of what happened after 9/11.
Oh, look at the hacking. If somebody wants to hack an airplane, they can hack it. But I believe they are very secure. That it's not easy to hack an airplane. I think it was 10 or 15 years ago that I was watching a video that there was a crime man used to hack airplanes and make them crash to the buildings. I don't remember the name of that a movie, but there is a movie about that one. It is possible to hack a airplane even now,
Yeah.
but they are hack proof. They are not hack proof. It's not easy for them to hack, and the government and the operators take this aspect in very serious matter. Uh, and one thing you need to think is not hacking is not simple thing. Is not just hacking the car. It can happen many other ways to hack to make the car make wrong decisions. For example, the simplest one is to hack the GPS satellite. So if GPS satellite is very easy and many few times happened that GPS has been hacked. So the system shows the wrong destination or the wrong route. So if GPS has been hacked,
Well, you have a
as a result
pilot
of
that would just turn off autopilot and correct it.
yeah, correct. Yeah, exactly. So this is the cybersecurity, not just for the autonomous car, it's just for all technologies that we have out there. I think this is the serious problem that we need to think for all technologies, new technologies that we have. They're gonna come, and we already have it. As you said, your phone can be hacked easily. Is to me, my privacy is very important. So how can I trust my phone that is not gonna be hacked? I have no choice to trust it and trust that the manufacturers, the governments take my privacy serious.
Would for hacking, for instance, or even with weather issues, like if there's a horrible solar flare, there's something where technology gets knocked out, would it just be better to have a backup system, like another system under the main system that would be able to recover, but it runs on a different software, runs on a different program
Certainly,
network?
yes, certainly. Look, even for our cars, for the cars that we are driving, there are a lot of safety backups. If something goes wrong, the system needs to uh, uh, make or help the driver to handle mitigate the situation, hazard situation, or any risk to the system, to the car. So of course, safety validation is a major progress during the design of any technology, including autonomous cars. Automotive sectors, they have a very strong track record in terms of the safety validation and verification of the cars, and they will build up this track base for the autonomous car based on the track and experience that they already have. With the appearance of the autonomous cars, a lot of things is going to change. For example, one of the challenges that the OEMs have, how to assure this verification, how to verification and validation for the safety of this technology. Because in the past, most of the cars mostly are mechanical components, but they are shifting to the electrical components. We will see more electrical components, less mechanical component. So the safety procedure will change. But again, I'm aware in the UK, there are many companies are working on safety and validation of the autonomous cars to come up with the new standards, with the new procedures to assure the safety of these cars.
Would with all these companies that are working on their own independent kind of researches or networks in a sense, don't they still have to work off the same template? Like if you have all these vehicles on the road, you can't have different ones that are working on different softwares, right? Like you have to have the same kind of rule for all of them. You can have small adjustments to it, but if you're having this much of fully autonomous, which I'm saying, yes, we're going to jump into the future and go fully autonomous ideas. Like you got to skepticize with me here. But if we enter that land of fully autonomous vehicles, just to make sure that there isn't such a variety of differences where there could be more, I guess, programming, not really programming, but more, you have more things that you have to view now because you have different programs out there. It would just be easier to have everybody on the same program. You have to use the same core system. Like we have a Windows 10, then there's a Windows 11. It's still Windows though. You don't have, like, you can have those with the companies. They can make their addeds or they can do these small things that make them different from the other company. But in a sense, you have to work off the same thing that all of our systems work off of, or you can't operate.
Yep, I agree with that one. But again, we will have a baseline to for the software development or for the any aspects of the autonomous cars. For example, for the current cars, we have the standard card ISO 26262, which is dedicated to the software, to the electric and electronic components of the car, not mechanical part, the electronic and electronic component of the car. So all OEMs use this standard to assure the safety of the cars. So for the future, when the cars getting more software based rather than hardware based, these standards will be modified to assure that all companies have a baseline to certify the safety of their cars. But how they certify or how they software works is going to be totally different.
Now with with networks, for instance, your background kind of gave me a thought, which is that are you going to have different, I guess, like where are you going to keep these facilities that are going to have these giant towers that are going to be able to kind of be able, not, I wouldn't say track, but be able to keep that system operating off with a feed. Like you got to have a network feed somewhere, and these computers are going to run off that feed. So are you going to have just different tower setups? Or are you going to probably there's going to be more, I guess, technological advancements when it comes to more of like the spread of one tower?
These are very technical question, which is not my background. But what I know, and I'm sure of it, is that all manufacturer or all software development, they will have their own architecture or a system architecture. So they will, I'm sure they will consider this all aspect that you're saying in their architecture design.
And with a windshield, for instance, I've seen cars that don't really have, like, it's a digital windshield, like it's not real. Is that going to be like what they're going to like? If you can give me an example of one of these, what these cars might look like in the future, at least from your idea, what these cars would look like in the future. Cause I still picture like just a car that you just can't drive. It still looks like a normal car, but the machine does it for it.
Yeah, I think those things that you see in the movies or in the pictures, they are fancy things. The reality is different. The reality, we will have the normal car that can drive itself. That's all.
I think we need stronger windshields though, because I can't get over the fact of like what happens if some like just jerk throws something to this in the road or the middle of the track, and then you got to worry about a car in front of you kicking up a rock or some type of thing that hits your windshield, and you don't have any way to avoid it.
Look, again, you need understand the difference between the levels. What you are talking about is the level 5, which is
I
going to
know
happen.
that's where I'm
Yeah,
at right now. I don't care about what's here now. I'm worried about what's going to be happening in the future, bro.
how much longer? You are
Dude,
talking
I
about
don't
the
think
next 10 years.
2050 is 2060. I'm picturing 2040 right now. I'm picturing 2045, maybe, because we just make these giant leaps. The thing is that we like to think it's so far away, but it's not. And that's why I like talking about it, is because I can sit here and say that won't be in my lifetime, won't be in my lifetime. You know how many people said that we weren't going to be able to like do regular trips up to the moon or something like that? Yeah, we're doing those trips now. Like there's hotels that they're talking about building on Mars. That's not that far off. It's going to end up getting here pretty quickly. You just need one person to funnel into that. So whether I'm skepticizing future or not, I don't think it's that much of sci-fi.
Okay, so look, if even for the 2040 or 2050, if you are talking about the fully autonomous car that you don't have any control on it, all people are not crazy, or this rare cases gonna happen. Okay, that's
You have a better view of
yeah,
society than me.
yeah, okay. So this case is gonna happen, but they are very rare. They are not common. First, we need to make this technology operating, coming to the market, coming to the roads. People get to use this, and then we need to see how much these cases will happen, and maybe the manufacturers, the governments, or whoever is responsible for it, think about those rare cases later. For us, for now, what is important for us, interaction of the autonomous driving with the human drivers. Okay, this is the important things, how these two system can interact to each other. So autonomous car and human drivers. We have for the human drivers, the understanding the intention of the human drivers is not easy. For example, sometimes if I'm going inside the roundabout, or let's say if there is a giveaway case, sometimes the drivers give me way, sometimes they don't. Okay, so it's not easy for the car to make decision in these cases. This is a challenge for now, to make interaction between these two cars, human-driven cars and autonomous cars. This is the challenge that, again, the researchers are working on it. It hasn't been done. The problem that we have with the autonomous car at the moment is not the case that, for example, somebody threw a rock to my windshield. The case is that how I can drive my car, which looks like a human driving. Okay, this is the challenge that we have at the moment. For example, the problem that we have with most of the cars, autonomous cars at the moment, is they are really very conservative. They can make actions like the human. For example, if I scan the environment, look at the outside, I can make decisions, this driver going to give me right or not. Okay, but it's not easy for the car to do that. So researchers, companies are working on this one to make the autonomous cars performance near to the human expectations. Okay, it's a long way to get to the full autonomous systems and autonomous car, but we are building this experience. Okay, it takes time, it takes years to get to the fully autonomous cars, and we need to experience the situation and make decisions based on that.
Well, even with time, for instance, where do you see your biggest fear of who's going to be slower? Is it going to be trying to get the people to accept it, or trying to get the technology to get there? Because I feel like the technology, we don't have to worry too much about us getting there. But with the people is the biggest thing. Like the smallest place I can think of implementing it. I know you probably think in the grand aspect of like just implementing it in people's lives, but I consider let's dip the toes in the water. Let's start with trash trucks. Let's start with instances that clean up our surroundings, or mail delivery. For instance, Amazon was talking about that giant 18 wheeler that would be delivering packages all fully autonomous. Like those are good ideas, because you just tell people we've already been delivering this way for a while now, and then people just get used to it, like they don't even know.
Yep, exactly. That's the things, people get used to it. At the moment, I'm not talking about the autonomous car, I'm talking about the electric cars. A lot of people have hesitations to buy the autonomous the electric cars. What's the reason? Because they have the range anxiety. They think, okay, what happened if I run out of the battery in the middle of way? What happens if I think that I have enough battery, but I can't get to my the destination? I was reading that an article, 2/3 of the UK people, I'm not sure, I think it was a 2/3 of the UK people expect to not to buy electric car by 2035 because of the range anxiety, because they cannot trust this technology. But the electric car comes to the market, and then when people use it, drive it, and see their anxiety is nonsense, they will get used to it and they will buy electric car. And by next few years, everybody will be driving electric cars. It's going to be the same for the autonomous cars. Okay.
Yeah, but okay. What
Of
about
course, user acceptance, user acceptance is a huge challenge for any technology. It's not just for the autonomous cars. And again, we had in the past a lot of EU and UK projects dedicated to the user acceptance of this technology. They have a lot of survey, they have gathered their opinion. I wasn't involved that much. User acceptance is a major challenge, but is not going to come, this technology come to market tomorrow. People needs to be educated, people needs to get aware of this technology, the pros and cons, and at the end, this is their choice to use this technology or not.
I think it's got a bright future ahead of it. I'm just glad that a lot of the things I mentioned, people have already been, you were mentioning that people are already doing research studies on it. Cause I just think, especially with those kind of outside ideas, like I tend to have, even if someone else is thinking about that as well, too, I think that's of prime importance. Now, just one last question for you, weather manipulation. With weather, for instance, just the sporadic conditions that Earth undergoes, snow, rain, flooding, hurricanes, all these, are we aware if one of these cars or even level two, whatever we have now, are there awares of that? Like it's not going to be something that like we're making sure that our program and software that we're developing is also going to take into account these rare conditions and rare instances that do happen.
This is certainly the area that we are concerned, and we know that the car doesn't work in all weather conditions. For example, camera doesn't work well at night. LiDAR doesn't work very well in the foggy or rainy environments. Or there are all these sensors have their own limitations. Okay, for example, radar cannot see the objects in the curve. So that's why the manufacturers, they are trying to fuse all these sensors together to make sure this technology works in all weather conditions. At the moment, what the companies do, they combine camera, LiDAR, radar for a car to have a robust perception of the environment. But still, there are some limitations, and companies and forward thinkers are looking for the new sensors technology to improve the performance of the perception system in all weather, all driving conditions. If there is a snow and the whole road is white, the camera doesn't can get any information to drive the car. Okay, so there is only way that we can do is to use a GPS. So, but the GPS has its own problem. GPS can be interrupted or it can be disconnected. So if this GPS is connected, we need to use LiDAR and camera. So we need to fuse all this data in case one is not working, the other one covered up.
Is there enough data already out there to make a very rough version of a fully autonomous car?
Of course it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. If you look, as I said, Waymo has driven its autonomous car for 1 billion miles. And every year they release their statistics. So if you go to the Waymo site, you can get the data.
And with the AI that would be involved in it, would it be a lot similar to, I mean, obviously a better version than Alexa, but like, would the car be able to speak with you and be able to honestly like give you that like more user feedback, that user experience that's going to make it more acceptable for people to want to use it?
Say it again. I didn't get your question.
So like when you have a vehicle, for instance, that drives mostly by itself, you can have a person in there. I feel like a good way to help people be acceptant to it is by having it speak to you in a more user-friendly experience.
Yeah, certainly. Look, again, people need to get educated to this one. They need to get experience of this one. For example, if you want to go myself, if I want to get a Tesla, even level 2, I may not trust that one. When I go to there in the Tesla dealer and do some test drive and have a feeling of driving a car autonomously, maybe I can trust that one. Again, user acceptance is not easy for any new technology. It takes time. It needs the education. It needs to it needs to get people needs to get experience of this one, and slowly they will trust that technology.
And where can people find you? Any links? Do you have any websites or any Twitter or anything like that you want to promote?
There are plenty of the websites on the in the internet that people can look at it. But I believe that if they are worried about the safety of this car, they can look at the statistics report on Waymo website, Uber website, or Tesla website to see how this technology is doing on the actual roads in reality.
I meant links for you, like
Oh, for
personal
my
links.
sorry,
Yeah,
yeah,
you got to
oh,
promote
personal.
yourself a little bit.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood your question. We have a link at the University of Surrey, Cav Lab at Surrey. They can search, if they search Cav Lab, they will see the website of our work, and they can get the latest the latest news of the work that we are doing related to autonomous vehicles.
And I'll link everything in the description. Is there anything you want to say to anybody out there listening before we wrap up the show?
No, this is our world is changing very rapidly, and very new technology is coming up. Each new technology has its own pros and cons, but it's people to do research and then make decision to use this technology or not.
It's an ever-changing world.